I would much rather be pursuing purpose, pursuing passion, pursuing mission than sitting around watching TV, playing video games, eating out. There's all these amazing lessons that I'm sharing with the world, times that I have a leg to stand on, results that I can show. But I'm also sharing my journey, the things that are happening along the way, so that as everything comes to fruition, we have something to look back on. So this is all documented so you can see the results of what happens when you follow this path, this life that I've learned about. And it's been just under 4 years since I stepped into the gym, the beginning of what changed everything. Just under 2 years since my last drink, and I'll never drink again. The gym was what started all of that momentum. And the last few days, everything I've been working towards, really, some of this for over 20 years, some of this over the last 4 years, some of it quite a bit longer. Just because of these habits, because of this lifestyle that I've learned and implemented and not stepped away from, the long, slow, steady, consistent grind, and then you blink your eyes and things just, one thing after another, boom, 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 it just falls into place. Yeah, you're fine. You're on a YouTube video now. I've heard this quote many times. It took a decade to become an overnight success. And, this is 4 years of building. And then within 24 hours, I close on the piece of land that I've dreamt of, and I close on a new vehicle that is part of this whole big picture. This vehicle solves a lot of problems. It saves me over $5,000 in taxes at the end of the year. It is a legitimate business vehicle. It's going to be the next 4x4 camper, and something else probably, almost as substantial. I realized I don't have to let my 8,000 follower channel die. I've been seeking clarity the whole time. That's my adventure channel. That's where I go do the fun things. Those videos take a long time to make. They take money, they take creativity, but that is my outlet. That is my passion. And this is my purpose. I have value to help people with, a real impact to make. These videos I can crank out a lot quicker, and the two will work together. So, I just kind of was letting this amazing asset with with a small handful of people who really enjoy that content. And I don't even check in on it. I get there and I have a bunch of messages. Hey, where have you been, man? We miss you. We want to see more. And I just realized, I'm like, well, how do I have time for all this? I already don't watch TV. I already don't do anything with anybody. All I do is work out, and create. And if I'm eating, I'm learning about something of value. I'm figuring out how to invest better. I'm learning how to develop myself better. I'm figuring out what to do with this content. I say it a lot. Motion creates clarity, and everything falls into place. I understand how this YouTube stuff is differentiated, one channel versus the other, that I have to keep creating for both of them, that it's going to be a long, slow, steady, consistent, disciplined grind, just like the gym, just like doing what it took to quit drinking, just like doing what it took to get my finances and credit under control. So, I'm committed. I would much rather be pursuing purpose, pursuing passion, pursuing mission than sitting around watching TV, playing video games, eating out, hanging out with people that just aren't where I'm at. And, every several months, I'll go spend a little time with a friend who has, I have a meaningful relationship with. And I think it's important that I do that every once in a while, but none of them think like me. None of them are on a pursuit like I am, and it is important that I keep my mind, my aura, my spirit clear of others who aren't on such a big mission, that don't have such a big vision, that don't realize how much is truly possible for them and for the world. We're in a moment that I'm front running a bunch of things, preparing myself to be in good shape if things get really weird. This is summer of 2025. and we're to a point financially where, maybe it's just a 50-year long, slow, steady grind before the U.S. dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency and the U.S. can't sustain itself. But there's also a possibility that one crazy thing happens in news and banks are insolvent and all kinds of wacky things happen. So, I've made sure I've invested uncomfortably, which has made this moment a little bit challenging. This year, and I've started my own marketing company. I'm a consultant now for several businesses. I do a lot of work. I'm not quite clearing six figures. I got a ways to go to do that, but I'm sure not in the lowest tax bracket either. So, I've built something that's allowed me to move forward steadily, but I've put over $6,000 into Bitcoin and crypto in the last, 8 or 9 months. And that $6,000 would solve a lot more problems, but I know that in 5 or 10 years, I'm going to be extremely grateful that I did it. I've saved myself just under 100 ounces of silver. It's not a whole lot, but if things stop working, man, it's going to be awfully nice to have. But back onto the point here. On days like this, when I'm kind of sharing my journey that's in progress, these are things I've learned I don't even want to talk about these things. I don't want to tell the world about anything. I want to show them what's been done once I've achieved the result. But by journaling and sharing this stuff along with you, I think there's some extra value. Plus, I know that between this channel, the people that just find this, like, who are you? I don't care about you. That's cool. But I've also built a relationship with the people on my main channel, and there's a handful of you here, I think, that are, appreciate or find some value in what we're talking about. It feels good to me that I've learned these lessons, that I've produced results, and that I can help other people find some of this in the same way that other people helped me find it. I wish I would have found some of the people that helped me really truly understand this sooner. So, many of the things you hear from me, maybe I've learned somewhere else and then kind of adapted it to myself. And then there's things that I've heard elsewhere that aren't necessarily congruent. They don't apply. It might be from the same person who I find a lot from. My top leading influences in terms of getting my life in order are two guys that came up from nothing. One of them's worth hundreds of millions, the other one's worth at least tens of millions. One guy's named Bedros Keuilian. He was a immigrant, came over, had dealt with a real rough childhood, and in his adult years built up, I think he's like 7 businesses, hundreds of millions. And the other one, his name is Wes Watson. This guy's an ex-con. He spent 10 years in prison for violent crime. Came out, and within a few years, he's making, tens of millions of dollars a year. And, this guy goes hard with fitness and self-discipline. And I'm still a flawed individual. I don't take everything this guy says to heart. I think he's gotten himself in some trouble. He got in a fight. Surprise, a violent criminal ex-con got in a fight. But he still taught me a lot, with a whole lot of value of how I can approach life, how discipline, how consistency, how discomfort is extremely valuable. And these are things that we should embrace, move into, go into, not run away from, not hide from. And the life that I've known for so long was, go to high school, go to college, get a job, be comfortable. Somebody else is going to solve all the hard problems. You're going to have your nice home, your rental, or your mortgage, and then you're just going to steadily grind away, slowly contribute to a 401k, get old and die. But in 2025, we really can't, most people can't rely on that working anymore, and less are going to be able to. So, now we're at a moment where the world's changing, and it could be scary for a lot, but there's infinite opportunity. It doesn't mean that opportunity is just easy. It's the stuff's, you don't just have an idea or do one thing and it just works out. when these things work out, it's because we've paid our dues, because we've learned our lessons, because we've worked hard, because we've made our mistakes, we've lost our money, we've had things not work. It's not supposed to happen quick or easy. It's supposed to happen once we actually have earned the reverence towards the things we can develop. Once we've actually gotten to a place where we have enough knowledge of how different things work. And how do we get that knowledge? From things not working out. So check out my main channel if you want to see the new vehicle. If, you want to see some of these adventures I've talked about, I'll make sure to put a card and a link. Also, I've started a community on Discord, the comebacks community for men making comebacks. Now, I'm the only one on the community right now. If you want to interact with me, if you want to start developing together, if you want to help build that community, I would love to have you there. I'll put the link below the video as well. And, this is going to be another consistent, long, slow, steady grind, but I know I have a lot to contribute. And maybe you're in a place where you need a little bit of guidance and need to be surrounded by some positive influences, or maybe you're on a path. Maybe you're to a place similar than me, but you want to be surrounded with others who are also on that path. And so I would love to meet up with you guys over there. Make sure to drop me a comment over here if you join up with Discord. I don't check in that much because, I'm the only guy there, and, opportunity cost. I can't be putting too much time putting content there when I've got content over here to make for you. So, we'll catch you next time.